Congratulations, you have made it to book 2 of the Fellowship of the Ring. I hope that you enjoyed the wild ride of book 1 and also some of the slower moments and some of the moments that may or may not have seemed out of place. I'm so excited that you're starting book 2 if you are reading The Lord of the Rings right now, because this video is part of a Lord of the Rings read-along series I'm hosting on my booktube channel. But book 2 is where, in my opinion, the story really starts coming into its own and taking on a very specific direction. The plot really thickens and the stakes become raised and things happen, so to speak. So today we're talking about chapter 1 of book 2. It's called Many Meetings. And in this chapter, it's really kind of our rest chapter. We had all the craziness that happened at Weathertop with Frodo getting stabbed, and then the flight to the ford where he's being chased by ringwraiths. And really the last thing we knew was Frodo being kind of, knocked unconscious in a way, falling unconscious, and that was it. But now we see him waking up in the land of Rivendell, or a better way to put it would be kind of the elven, it's not really a city, but it's like a sanctuary of Rivendell. And if this seems familiar to you at all, and you've read The Hobbit, you'll remember Rivendell is the same place that Bilbo and the dwarves stopped on their way east to the Lonely Mountain. So it's interesting because a lot of the beginning of The Hobbit and the beginning of the Fellowship of the Ring have the same location beats. They go on the same relative direction, and then stop at Rivendell to get some rest, some recuperation, and some direction from the Elf Lord Elrond before they continue on their journey. And that's exactly what we have here, except in this case we have a little bit more fleshing out of the world happening. One of the things I love is how Tolkien has his characters just stop and rest and tell stories. We talked about this in a few of the last videos, how story is such a powerful thing. And near the end of this chapter, we have Frodo saying, or Tolkien saying through Frodo found that he no longer felt in need of rest or sleep, but had a mind for food and drink, and probably singing and storytelling afterwards. And that's the power of this land of Rivendell. But not only this land of Rivendell, but I'm going to keep going back to this and keep harping on it again and again as the series goes on. Just the power of what stories do to us. They give us hope, they give us encouragement, they let us see what comes before, and hopefully give us a little bit of direction on what lies ahead. Because some of the stories that the elves sing and talk about in Rivendell are kind of somber in a way. A lot of what happens in the elven culture throughout all of Tolkien's writings, from the first age in the Silmarillion through the third age, is very sad. And I don't want to talk about this too deeply now because that's for another video that I have planned. But a lot of bad things happen to elves in their history, to put it lightly. They're always at the forefront of the struggle against dark powers, and they fight what's called the long defeat. They know that even if they defeat evil, their power and their time in Middle-earth is ending, but yet they still sing about those songs that show the defeats and show the victories, show the times where they maybe won, but things went very badly for a lot of their people, and it was a somber victory. And they don't shy away from that. And that's what you get at Rivendell. You get a sense of peace, but you also get a sense that something bigger and deeper is happening in the land of the elves. For example, they do not fear the ringwraiths, for those who have dwelt in the blessed realm live at once in both worlds, and against both the seen and the unseen they have great power. Now, many of the elves in Middle-earth, not all of them, but many of them, although there's very few at this point, came from a land called Valinor, where the Valar created the various races. They created elves and dwarves and men, but the elves specifically lived in the land of Valinor across the Western Sea with the Valar, and a lot of them came to Middle-earth, and a lot of things happened, which I'm not going to go into now. But they live in both realms kind of at the same time in a way. They're physically present in Middle-earth, but it's kind of like their spirit dwells for and yearns for, rather, the land of their home in a way. You have characters like Elrond, who wasn't born in Valinor, but he has descendants of people who were. And then we have a character who shows up in a few chapters later who did come from what we call the Blessed Realm, the land that they kind of pine for and long for. So you have these elves kind of living both in a spiritual sense and also in a physical sense in Middle-earth. So they're kind of torn there because they know that Middle-earth is their home where they live, but they also, compared to hobbits and dwarves, and men, they have this very strong insight into what that land that they came from, where the Valar are and still dwell, what that's like. And yet they still are able to encourage and give hope to the people that stop at Rivendell for rest and respite and encouragement. This is the Hall of Fire. Here you will hear many songs and tales, if you can keep awake, People come here who wish for peace and thought. There is always a fire here all the year round. I want a Hall of Fire, guys. That just sounds so cool. I want a place where the fire is always roaring, and we just have, peace in stories, in singing, in tales, and just camaraderie and fellowship, no pun intended. And this place, this Hall of Fire within Rivendell, just is the perfect place for Frodo, because if you haven't read the book yet, you won't know this yet, but there is a very big decision he has to make coming up. And if you have read the books or seen the movies, you know exactly what this decision is. And I love it because Frodo has to make a very important decision about his next part of the journey, what he's going to do next. And it's not a gut reaction. You have Frodo here just really, recuperating from an injury, being reunited with his uncle / cousin Bilbo, who he hasn't seen in years and years. He's able to spend time with his fellow hobbits and with Gandalf, who we wasn't sure was even alive at this point. And it's just so great because we have Frodo resting, and I feel like so few authors in fantasy world just let characters rest to the point where when they have to make a choice, we understand it's believable because they've had time to mull on it, they've had time to get their mind and their life as much in order as possible. So, all that to say, I want to Rivendell. I want to go there. I think it sounds epic. Outside of the Shire, I think it's my favorite potential place in Middle-earth as far as a place that I would want to go in real life. So let me know what your thoughts are on this chapter as always, and I will see you tomorrow for one of the longest chapters in the Fellowship of the Ring.